goes, our energy flows. And that's what we're creating, our experience, all the time. So why does this matter? Well, in my experience, our life is the sum of our experiences. It's a pretty big deal. And I find that when I'm able to notice where my energy goes and where my attention flows, I can actually reduce my own suffering. And when I reduce my own suffering, I actually free up energy to help others and to be in service. And for me, that's actually what life is all about. It's kind of boring just focusing on myself. And I feel in this moment in time, really more than ever, we need to focus on helping ourselves so that we can be in service to others. So a few definitions. What is our attention? It's our thoughts. It's what we focus on. So right now, I might be thinking about what I'm going to eat after this, because I do love food. Energy, it's also our attention, but it's our drive, our power. So sometimes we feel like we don't have the energy to deal with something. It's part of being human, right? Yeah. And what's our experience? Our experience, it's what's happening right now. It's also our knowledge, but it's also a feeling. So I'd like to invite you to take a moment to just check in with yourself. And the best way that I know how to do that is by focusing on my breathing. So maybe take a moment, yes, to breathe in through the nose, move the energy in, and on the exhalation, let it go out of your mouth. Because what happens when we focus on the breath, and when we slow down the breath, we actually slow down the mind rate, and we slow down the heart rate. And when we do that, we're much better able to focus our attention. So how do we actually create our experience? Well, I'm going to give you an example. So recently, a couple years ago, I decided to move to Long Island, even though I still work in Bronxville, and love Bronxville. And a 30-mile trip can sometimes be up to 2 hours, right? Any of you who know the bridges and the Van Wyck. And I realized initially, during these drives, that I would get really negative. And I'm not usually a negative person. And I would start to think, oh, this stinks. I can't believe I did this. How am I going to do this? I love my business. I love where I live. And I started to feel contracted and stuck. My energy just didn't feel good, which made me feel pretty lousy, actually. Sometimes I'd get frustrated, angry, cranky. And then I realized, wait, I can change this experience by shifting my attention, by shifting my focus. And I said to myself, how can I actually create what I seem to be an obstacle, which is the traffic, as an opportunity? So as soon as I decided to focus my attention on how I could use the time to listen to a podcast, make a phone call, listen to music, sometimes even drive in silence, which is amazing, I completely shifted my energy, and what do you think happened? I shifted my experience. So I actually started to feel a sense of empowerment, productivity, and even calm. It was pretty incredible. So why does this matter, this idea, where our attention goes, our energy flows, and that's what we're creating our experience? It matters because I believe we're all after an experience in life. What does that mean? It means that if we look at the choices that we make about the things that we want and the things that we don't want, it's actually based on our perception of that experience or how it will make us feel. So we choose our relationships, right? Who we want to be in relationship with, who we don't, the type of relationship. Do we even want to be in a relationship, right? We choose our work, our cars, maybe our clothing, the food we eat, based on how it's going to make us feel. So how are these perceptions developed? Well, usually they're based on our past, right? How we were raised, so our families, societies. So these are really powerful. So I have an example. So how do we actually shift? Let's say you have an upcoming family gathering. So just take a moment to check in. What does that bring up for you when you think of an upcoming family gathering? Is that a happy thing? Are you having positive thoughts about that? You know, I love getting together with the family. It's fun on a Sunday in the summer at 3 o'clock, right? Or is it like, nah, you know, I'd rather be on the beach. I'd rather do something else. Just notice, if we think that it's not going to be a pleasant experience, it's likely it won't, right? That's how powerful we are. And again, there's no right or wrong here. The key is to know ourselves and to remember that we can always create a new experience. So I want you to take a moment now again to check in with yourself. Notice what you're thinking. Where's your attention? Are you focused? Are you here? Are you enjoying this? Are you connected? Or are you not here? Are you thinking about where you're going after this? Maybe you're not connected to what I'm saying. Maybe it's kind of making you feel bored or blah. You can leave. No, you can't. I'm kidding. Don't leave. But sometimes in life you can't leave, right? Sometimes we're in situations, whether they're family situations, work situations, social situations, where we literally can't leave. So we have to remember that we always have a choice of how we're showing up. And this is what gives us empowerment. This is what makes us feel that we can actually do something, that we can actually have an impact. So I feel that the ability to shift our attention and our energy and create a new experience has tremendous impact on our well-being. When we recognize that we have the ability to change our experience, not only do we reduce suffering for ourselves, but we can also extend this to somebody else because we show up differently and people feel it, right? People sense it. So I'd like to give you another example, a very dear personal example of how I had to do this very recently. So in October, my husband and I adopted an 18-month-old sweet German Shepherd who was rescued. He wasn't cared for. My first dog. And we decided we're going to send him to obedience school. We thought this would be a fantastic idea. I was so excited. We met the trainer. I felt like he was like the shaman of animals. I was thinking this is going to be a fantastic experience. It's going to enrich the animal. It's going to enrich us. We're going to be all better for it. And I started to share this with other people. And some people were actually negative. I can't believe you're going to do that. That's so mean. He's going to be gone for so long. What if they hurt him? What if they put an e-collar on him? And I started to find myself getting obsessed. And I started to feel conflicted, and I started to doubt myself, which is sometimes rare. And then I said to myself, I'm allowing these other people's ideas and thoughts to infiltrate my energy, and I'm starting to feel negative. And again, I had to stop and pause, just like the traffic example. There's thousands of these examples in our life. And I said, wait a second. What's my intention here for this animal and for myself? It's to enrich. And the only way I know how to do that is by training, right? So we want to get better, we need to learn from people who do it better, who know what they're doing. So as soon as I decided to shift my energy and attention again to the reasons, to my intention about why we wanted to send him to obedience school, I started to feel happy. So when we take this idea of where our attention goes, our energy flows, and that's what we're creating our experience, tremendous implications for the relationship that we have with ourselves, the relationship that we have with other people, and then how we relate to the world. And I believe that this can help us reduce suffering and bring more peace into the world. When we know ourselves, when we gain mastery of our thoughts and our emotions, when we're clear on maybe what our triggers are and where we tend to go, some of us tend to be more negative, some of us tend to be more positive. And when we realize we actually have control over our thoughts and over our attention, what starts to happen as we shift our thoughts, we start to shift our emotions. We start to learn how to regulate our emotions. And when we regulate our emotions, we can shift our experience and how we're feeling. And in doing that, it brings me a sense of empowerment because I remember that I have a choice. No matter what, I have a choice about where I'm going to focus my attention and who and what gets my attention, right? So we create ourselves by how we invest our energy. And I always say energy is our number one asset. You can have a ton of money in the bank, but if you don't have energy, you can't do much and you can't enjoy your life. So tremendous implications for the world that we live in. So remember, where your energy goes is what you're creating. What you focus on always grows bigger in your life. And your life is the sum of your experiences. And my vision is for all of us to come together as a human family to raise consciousness on the planet, to reduce suffering, and to enhance well-being for everybody. Thank you for your attention.